Welcome, and thank you guys for joining us live. We're excited to have you here today as we dive into one of the most robust and powerful window tint and PPF tools on the market today, MATMAK. Whether you're a new installer or a seasoned installer, MATMAK was designed with you in mind to help save you time and money. From our user-friendly interface to our extensive collections of tools such as auto nesting to help you with material usage, node editing for those custom modifications that you may need, multi-vehicle editing for those high volume shops, and also our project management tools to help organize your shop and keep everything on track. This all-in-one pre-cut software was designed to help you streamline your workflow inside of your business. With MATMAK, you have access to over 100,000 templates. That's exterior, interior, and window tint templates, which gives you the flexibility to tackle any job that comes into your shop. Now, when we first launched MATMAK version 3, we went into the field and just asked installers their feedback on the software and what we could do to make the software better. And we took everything that you guys said, we went to work, and we added new tools, added new functionalities, and just made the software better than before. Stick around to the end of this live stream, and I'll show you how you can have access to MATMAK for a fraction of the original price. Now, this is a live stream. If you guys have any questions at any time during this live stream, feel free to leave your comments below. And we have a team that's monitoring these questions, and we'll make sure to get them answered by the end of this live stream. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Kyle so he can demonstrate some of the exciting new features that we have in MATMAK version 3.
Thanks, Joseph. So I am currently logged in on the latest update of the MATMAK Precut software, and I'm greeted, of course, with our profile screen. So this is all displaying the information that we've used to sign up and register on the website. So to jump into some of the latest updates that have come out, we can head over on the left-hand menu to our settings tab with the gear icon here. So in here, we still have some of the basics with the cutting board setup here. You have the width and the length, which of course you can change on the fly as needed, depending on what media is loaded in on your plotter. And of course, if you find that you're adding in and more patterns and need more space, you can just come back over here, swap the length as needed, and change it, and it will auto update your active cut boards. And just below that, you'll see we've added in a few more options. So the first one up is the cutting protocol language. So in our experience, the HPGL is pretty standard for the vast majority of major plotter manufacturers. So that's what we're using with our GraphTech that we have hooked up today. I also know and can confirm this one works with our Mimaki plotter as well. But if you're working with something like one of the Suma brand plotters or any others, you may find that one of these other languages will be what you need to use. So those are in there, and that expands a lot of our plotter compatibility. In addition to that, you've got a few more options just underneath the protocol for things like returning the plotter to the origin point after the cut is finished, and our personal favorite and most requested during feedback from a lot of our subscribers is the feed after cut option. So this is great for not playing any guessing games once you've run your cut patterns and you want to just go ahead and cut that material off without accidentally cutting through one of your pre-cuts. And so we're going to be using that one today. So I've got that one turned on. Depending on your plotter, you may or may not need to swap the X and Y axes for when the plotter data is sent. For us on the GraphTech, we don't need that one, so we have it turned off. But also, some nice little quality of life features that have been added in are the velocity and force overrides that you can specify directly here in the MATMAK software. So these can override the plotter settings for the force and speed at which it's going to be cutting. So this can be nice if you're, running into an issue where either you need to slow the plotter down a little bit more for some tighter, more detailed cuts. And then off on the right-hand side, we have our connection type. So primarily, what we use is the top option up here, which is for the USB connections. And this basically pulls from the Windows OS of your printer list that is available. So we've selected our Graphtec FC9000 there. But if you're working with a Summa, we have some specific options for hooking those up. And then of course also the IP connections and port allocation for anyone working with a wireless or Ethernet based connection for their plotter in their shop. So there's a lot of options to be able to customize the MATMAK to connect your plotter and expand the support for a lot of plotter manufacturers that are out there. So enough with that though, let's get into some of the cooler tool updates and features that have been brought in on the new version. So we're going to head over to our search vehicle tab with the little magnifying glass on the left hand side. And this opens up the in-app web-based library. So from here, we can search for any of our vehicles. You can see I've already pulled up a few and been searching, so you can see my search history. For now, let's actually look up a new vehicle though. I'm going to pull up a BMW, and I think I'm looking for the 7 Series. It's going to be a sedan, and I need the M Sport trim level. And let's look up the latest year model for 2025. Now with the region, you can select a region if you want, but I tend to recommend just leaving this blank. You can still search without it. If you specify a region, especially for something like, say, the Land Rover, it might be specified as a UK, and if you're looking for a US version, it might not give you any results. So this is just the easiest way to not accidentally over-filter your search. And then we hit show vehicle and we get greeted with a bunch of patterns. So we have some filter options below the main search tool here. So we can look at specifically exterior kits for your main body panels on the vehicle. You can go over to the tint filter and look at specific window tint options. So you have your full window tint kit for all windows on the vehicle, or some specialty cuts and patterns for some other options. And then of course on the interior side, you can find that we have interior patterns for many vehicles for areas on the center console and other places that might need some extra protection. And then on the exterior, you can also filter for wrapped and unwrapped versions of the pre-cuts. So the wrapped edges on these pre-cuts will end up having about 10 millimeters extension on all of these panels, and then the unwrapped will be your more traditional, about 1 millimeter back from most body panels. So let's open up this one real fast, and we can then either move this around, zoom in or zoom out as needed, and you can select any individual patterns that you want to be able to add. So I'm going to grab some fenders and a bumper and hit add selected from the top menu up here, and you'll see my cutboard preview will now populate with my selection. Say I want to be able to take the whole kit here, I can just also hit the add all button and it will automatically take the entire pattern shown and add it to the cut preview. But we don't need that for now. And I can also hide this as well to save on some screen real estate. And before we open up our cutboard, I'm going to hop back into my search here, pull up one of my previous searches for a Range Rover, and I'm going to look for the wrapped edges on this one and open up that pattern and add some more fenders and a bumper into my current preview. Let's open that back up, and you'll see I've got both the BMW and the Range Rover in here. So now I'm ready to actually open my cutboard. And let's go ahead and utilize the auto nesting feature from the top menu up here. What's great about this is it is going to use some AI to help kind of basically take a look at your cutboard size, the pattern sizes, and try to rotate around and place everything in the most efficient way possible. But if, say, you don't like how this has aligned any of these panels, you can actually go ahead and select the nesting tool again, and it will give you multiple and new iterations on how to place some of these to give you a nice starting point on trying to conserve some material. For me, though, this one works, so let's keep going and take a look at the fact that we've got 2 different colors on our templates here. So these are basically color codings for you to be able to keep track of what patterns belong to which vehicle. So my pink color here is for the Range Rover, and the kind of pale yellow is going to be for my 7 Series M Sport. Now, new quality of life feature that's been hugely asked for from a lot of the feedback has been the ability to multi-select patterns on your active cut board, which of course you can now do. All you got to do is click anywhere, click and drag, and you can create a selection box. And anything that it touches, you don't have to completely select the entire pattern in that selection to be able to select a pattern, and then you can either move it around, you can of course rotate together, and then also let's say you need to duplicate them. You can actually do that with Control D with any selected pattern. Let me try that again. Control D. Get the pop-up window to confirm the duplication, and the new patterns will be added in at the origin point. So you can either renest or move around manually. For me, I don't need these, so I can also do the multi-delete as well by hitting the delete key with the selected patterns. Oops, grab both, move those back in. So what I want to be able to do now is add in another pattern that I may have forgotten to add in on my board already. So let's hop back over to our search vehicle, and I remembered that I also needed a bumper from our Hexis here. And let me pull it from the wrapped kit, and we're just going to take that bumper, add selected, and open up a cut board. So you'll notice that it is on its own cut board. Let's bring that back over to our primary. So we can select the pattern, hit Control C, jump back over on our other active cut board over here, and Control V to copy and paste. And there it is. And I'm just going to renest real fast just to see how that comes out. But the copy and paste feature is great. You can do it inside of a cut board or you can do it across cut boards. So this is excellent if you have done some editing to a pattern and you can't undo the edit itself. You can just go back into the search, find it again, add it, and copy and paste, and you're good to go. You don't have to start from scratch. Or of course, you can just kind of move patterns around as needed to kind of best conserve material and create some different cut boards for yourself. So just waiting on the nesting to finish up here in just a second, and we can jump into some of our other tools. So with that, I'm going to take this fender and we're going to duplicate it real fast. And I'm going to do a partial wrap on this. Let me just flip that around, zoom in, and with the partial cut, we've updated the usability on this. So with the pattern selected, use the partial wrap tool from the top menu right here, and you'll now see, let me zoom in a little more, that we have a much more accurate cursor highlight on the pattern edge that'll follow where you're hovering with the mouse. So all you got to do now, instead of any hotkeys, is just point and click, and we can zoom out, and I want to add my partial extension out to this edge here. And this is going to wrap based on my wrap distance that I have set up there, which currently is at 3/4 of an inch, which might be a little heavy. But let's say we want to round off that edge. We don't want such a harsh corner on our extra material here. We can double click and enter nodes as I've just done. So let me do that again for you. There we go. We're in nodes mode. When we click on a node, we get a little menu that'll pop up here now. So we can either delete that point or we can insert a new one at wherever we click, again with that little red highlighted area. So let me add one here, and let's also start moving this down, and you'll see that as I move this, there is an original kind of green line to help me track where the pattern originated before I started shifting the nodes. So this is really nice to be able to just keep track of where and how much editing you've done in this scenario. So then we can just move our handlebars here and create more of a rounded tab to work with. And I'm just going to move that one slightly. And then once we're done, we can shift over. I'm actually going to zoom out, make my life a little easier, and zoom in. And you'll notice that the zoom is targeted around where you're hovering with the mouse. So that's a nice quality of life change as well, to be able to kind of target specific areas and move around the cut board faster. So actually, before I move that one, let me add in a new point. And I'm going to take this and we're going to shift that and make it a little bit more vertical. right about here. Take that handlebar, oop, wrong handle, grab that one, and round off my tab there. And I think we're good. Double click anywhere outside of the pattern to deactivate that mode. And we can then, of course, compare to our original pattern. Let me shift this one around just to see how that extension has done. And there you go. We have our partial wrap there. So don't necessarily need that anymore, so we can just click and use the delete key and get rid of that for now. Let's jump into something else though, another useful tool. I'm going to flip around this Lexus bumper here, and we're going to test out something else in the nodes tool that you can play with, which is if you double click, activate the nodes feature, you'll see that you can now actually select multiple or individual subpatterns inside of the pattern. So like the sensors here, I don't want those sensors. Let's go ahead and delete those. Now, we can, of course, double click out, undo that real fast. Let's say we wanted the tow hooks and the sensors removed. You can also just have the pattern selected and use the sub pattern removal tool from the top menu and remove all of them at once as well. Now with those removed, I'm going to shift this on my cupboard here, use my grid to kind of align it so that way I can use the grid as my center line here. And with the pattern selected, I can hit the split tool up here because I want to actually split this bumper in half. So let's go ahead and do that, and we can basically point and click anywhere on the cupboard and any pattern intersecting with those the line created from my clicks will then separate, and we can of course keep or delete that if we need it, but we have a nice separation there. Now, the split tool is not only for fully splitting patterns. You can also do partial splits. Let me zoom in on this little curve in here, reactivate the split tool, and I can point and click and I can start and end outside or inside the pattern anywhere I want, and then actually create a relief cut for myself, which we can even further edit if we want to. Let me delete one of the extra points there. Take that. I'm going to go ahead and shorten that relief cut a little bit, but also take one of these and let's just expand that relief just a little bit, give it a little bit of a gap. And there we go. We can add in relief cuts. So let's say we've done all of this editing and we've made all these special pattern extensions, relief cuts. We've got like dealership work where we're going to be doing these either 10 at a time or we're going to be doing them as needed on order from the dealership that we've got a contract with. We don't want to have to be doing this over and over again. So let's go ahead and make use of the save board feature and can pull that up and title it anything you want. We can call this MATMAK Live Demo and save. And we get a nice pop-up to confirm the saved board. We can now safely close out of this board and also this spare board that we don't need. And then head over to the save board tab on the left-hand menu. And you'll see that we have the MATMAK Live Demo right here on our save boards, and we can recall it at any time. So now let's jump into a different cupboard that I had saved, and we're going to pull up one of our Audi fenders here for our Hexis trainer Marcelo to do a live demo with some of the pre-cuts that we have from the software. So I've got the fender here for our Audi A1 2015. I'm just going to flip this around, actually. Let me adjust my rotation speed there. And there we go. Okay. So what Marcelo has requested is I add a partial wrap to the wheel well area of the fender here. So with that selected, he wanted a 1/2 inch addition. So I'm just going to type in 1/2 inch on my wrap distance and select my partial wrap tool. I'm going to zoom in here and start my wrap there and end my wrap over here. We get our confirmation, and there we have our wrap. Now, with this, I'm going to go ahead and just adjust these slightly so that we have a cleaner edge. Adjust my handles. And that should do on that side. And let's do the same over here. So we can select this point and move it, and there we go. So now we have our nice partial wrap 1/2 inch down here. We're also going to go ahead, he wanted to do a partial install for the fender, so I'm going to duplicate this pattern now that we have it ready. There it is, our separate one. And I'm going to go ahead and use the split function on here, and I'm just going to change my rotation slightly so I can use the grid lines from our cut board to make my partial cut. So with this pattern selected, I can then use the split tool, and I can make my cut, I think, right about here, and we'll kind of use that grid line as a guide and finish our cut. Now with this, we no longer need it, so we can just select the unnecessary half and delete. So let's go ahead and nest that really fast and move that around. And I'm going to go ahead, line that up nice, and that one as well. So let's change our wrap distance really fast. Let's do 3/4 of an inch, give ourselves some room. And what I'm going to do now is utilize the outward double cut from our top menu here. And with the pattern selected, we can use the outward tool. So as you'll see, we now have 2 cut lines all around our pattern. So what this is going to do is have the plotter double cut this, and we can then only need to weed out this little interior 3/4 of an inch instead of having to remove all of the extra material or trim it off by hand once the plotter is done. And we'll do the same thing for our partial fender as well, outward. And let's tuck that in here. And before we send this to cut, what I want to do is check using the overlap tool from our top menu. And yes, we see that my pattern here is just over the edge of the cut board. So it flashes red to let you know you have an issue before you send it to the plotter. So let's go ahead and readjust, and let's check our pattern now on the overlap, and we have no warnings, and we can go ahead and send this to cut. So there we have our FC9000 kicking on, and we currently have our BF Black M, the matte black body fence film, loaded on here for these cuts. We chose the black matte, even though we have a black gloss paint. We're going to do this just for visibility for you guys to be able to better see when we're weeding and working with the film. So now that this is going and Marcelo's waiting on the plotter to finish up its cuts, I think we can open up to some questions from our viewers.
What platforms are available for MATMAK?
So the question is, what platforms are compatible with the MATMAK software? So currently the Precut software itself is compatible with the latest versions of Windows from 8, 10, and 11. The website itself, though, which hosts the pattern library, can be accessed from any device. So you can access it from your phone or your tablet or PC, whether it's Windows, Mac, iOS, or Android, and be able to view all of the templates available in the library. Now, for the Precut software itself, we do have compatibility coming for the Mac and Linux OSs, but for now, it is Windows only. Looks like the plotter is finishing, and Marcelo's bringing the material over to begin the weeding, so we should see him utilizing that double cut shortly. And I think we're ready for another question.
How often is the pattern library?
So the question is, how often is the pattern library updated? And it's actually pretty often. It's more dependent on when vehicles are hitting the market and how fast the team where it's headquartered in Dubai will be able to bring the vehicles in and scan and test fit patterns. But we do have updates rolling in multiple times a week for many patterns. So it is very often. The other thing to note, though, is if you don't see a pattern that you need available in the current library, you can always request these by contacting the USA support line for the MATMAK Precut software. And you can reach us via phone, WhatsApp, call or text message, and of course email. And just make sure you submit all the same details you would normally use to look up the pattern in the library. So that would be the make, model, year, and trim level. You can also, of course, provide us with a VIN number as well to be able to confirm all of those details if you have it available. And it looks like Marcelo's finished up his weeding, so we can see the double cut's been removed from these patterns, so he'll have an easier time being able to remove those and do his installation. And he's also trimmed off that excess material that he can maybe use to bolt some side mirrors or anything like that for a future install. And as he preps the fender panel for the installation, I think we can take another question.
Do you have to edit the particle wraps every time, or is there patterns already?
So the question is, do you have to edit the patterns every time when you are performing things like the partial wrap or anything else? Now you can use these patterns, whether they are wrapped or unwrapped edges, as they are. They are test fit for every panel. So you should run into zero issues with the fit itself. But when you're working with the partial wrap, we only clean up the edges as a personal preference for Marcelo. He's a bit particular, but he is also one of the best. So we follow his lead on doing that. But otherwise, for the partial extensions or any wraps, you can always utilize the wrapped edges that are pre-built on the available templates for most vehicles inside the MATMAK software.
Are window or interior patterns available?
So we have another question on whether window and interior patterns are available. So for things like window tint or center consoles and things like that. Yes, all of these patterns, in addition to exterior vehicle bodies, are available in the MATMAK software, and they are all included in the same subscription price. So you do not need to pay extra to be able to get access to different panels and types of patterns inside the database. And it looks like Marcelo is getting his pattern aligned on that fender, and he's just lining up some of those pre-cut edges and starting to get that thing tacked down. So it's looking good so far. And I think we have another question coming in.
Do I need to install anything, or is it fully web-based?
So the question is, do I need to install anything, and is it MATMAK software fully web-based? So there's only one thing you need to install, and that is the Precut software itself. Now, the library is completely web-based, and many of the nesting features are also going to be web-based as well. So it will call back to a server to perform a lot of the computations, so you can run the software on, you know, a lower grade laptop if you need to. So you don't need to heavily invest in a top-end PC to handle a lot of the calculations that it might need to do for nesting, wrapping, or anything like that. And it looks like he's nearly finished with this. He might be doing a final wipe down, and he'll probably start heating up his edges to lock them in. I think we have time for a couple more questions though. Let's see. So the question is, can I save and share custom edits for my team? So yes, when you have multiple installers in your shop, you only need one subscription to the MATMAK software. You can have different project folders set up inside the application. So what you can do is have these different project folders assigned to a specific installer, and they can then, when they open the software, open up their specific project folder and have all of their own saved boards saved there, instead of having there be a mess of pattern or cupboard availability that everyone is trying to sift through. Now, the other thing you can do is have a general saved board area, and they can call that board up and then save it into their own project folder. So yes, it is shareable within the shop.
Can I use my phone to measure the square footage?
So the question is, can I use my phone to measure the square footage of the different patterns? And yes, you actually can by using the matmaksolutions.com website. to view the template library there. When you select patterns and open up the details page on those patterns, it will give you an estimation on the amount of square footage necessary to run the entire pattern that's been selected. Now, inside of the software itself, if we hop back over for a second and pull up the MATMAK screen here, we actually do on the cupboard table have the ability to use the toggle material button. And what this will do is when you have patterns on your cupboard, you'll toggle it on and you'll now see that you have some measurements in here. So this is telling me my width and this is telling me the active length that the plotter is going to need to cut my pattern. And then of course, over here, it can calculate the square footage on the left-hand side. All right, and it looks like Marcelo is heating up those edges to lock them in. And he is just about finished with that pre-cut. So we're going to be able to kind of see that final version of the installation where those pre-cut edges are about 1 millimeter back, really nicely fit to the panel itself. And then the extended edges from our partial wrap are nicely tucked under that wheel well for that added protection. So it's looking pretty good. Well done, Marcelo. Do we have time, I think, for a couple more questions if we've got them coming in?
Are there tutorials or live trainings?
So the question is, are there tutorials and or live trainings? And yes, absolutely. So we are in the process of updating our live tutorial. It is linked inside of the Precut software, but with the new version update, we're going to be updating that tutorial as well. In the meantime, and at any time, if you ever run into any needs to be able to see a demo, you can contact the MATMAK USA team via, again, WhatsApp, call, text, or email to be able to schedule a live training and or demonstration so we can get on a video call with you, help you get set up with the Precut software, or just run a demo of the software live specific for you or your shop. We can always be ready to help you get set up and started. So we're going to hop back over now. It looks like the installation's done, looking really good. We're going to hop over to the matmaksolutions.com website because I think we have a few questions that are more relevant to that. So let's pop that window up here. What do we got? So the question is there a free trial? And absolutely. So on the MATMAK website, if you hop over to the pricing tab, you can already see that we have a 30-day free trial available. The only limitation is that you can only send up to 7 cuts to your plotter before the software will lock you out. But otherwise, it is full access to every feature and every pattern on the software. So the question is, how do I know if my plotter is compatible? And what we can actually show you is on the support tab in the MATMAK website. If we click on that, you'll see the operating system compatibility. And then just under that is search your plotter compatibility. So you can use that drop-down list to select from multiple plotters here. So you can see we're looking at, say, the FC9000 that we have, and you'll get a readout that says IP connection as well as USB connection are okay. So you can use this drop down, search for whichever plotter, Suma's, HP, Jaguar, US Cutter, Mimaki's, anything of that sort. But we have a wide range of compatibility. And of course, if you run into any trouble, you can go to the contact page over here and utilize the United States tab to find our phone number and email, or just submit a message straight on the website here. And we'll get back to you usually within 24 hours or less. So we have a question about what subscription options are available. So we can hop back over to that pricing tab. And we'll see in addition to the 30-day free trial, you can use a monthly subscription with special pricing for body fence users. But if you want to be able to save even more, you can choose an annual subscription again with special pricing for body fence users, and it'll save you about 20% over the monthly pricing. But say you don't use pre-cuts that often in your shop and you only need to use the software occasionally and you don't want to lock yourself in for even a whole month at one time, you can also subscribe for a cut credit option with a specific amount of square footage at special pricing as well. But in addition to these standard pricings, I'm going to be turning you back over to Joseph, who's got a few special offers just for our live stream viewers.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Marcelo, for that excellent deep dive demo into the new tools and features in the MATMAK version 3 software. As you guys can see, all these new tools and all the functionality in this software could help save you time and money in your business. We'd like to thank you guys for sticking around on this live stream. And as promised, for all you guys who stayed to the end, I want to provide you a special promo code to how you could save up to 25% off your monthly subscription on MATMAK. Head over to matmaksolutions.com right now and use code MATMAKLIVE. It should pop up right here, MATMAKLIVE. Use that code during the checkout process so you can save 25% off your monthly subscription. So for reference, if you're a body fence user, you can only pay $90 a month for this amazing software. It's a no-brainer, guys. There's no other PPF software on the market today that has this much value to where you can only get it for $90 a month. But it doesn't stop there. For anybody who wants to take advantage of our annual subscription, right now we're doing a special promotion for all US Hexis distributors. If you buy a full roll of Body Fence X, full roll meaning 60 inches by 65 feet, if you buy a full roll of Body Fence X from any authorized US Hexis distributor, you'll get $200 off of your annual subscription to MATMAK. Again, for reference, guys, that's $75 a month for this amazing PPF software. Can't beat that value. All you got to do is, as soon as you make your purchase from authorized Hexis distributor, head over to hexisimericas.com/MATMAK promo, upload your proof of purchase, and we'll go ahead and email you a voucher code for $200 off. Guys, we'd like to thank you for joining our live, and we'll see you on the next one.